Welcome back, everybody. So in today's video, I want to go through the best possible replacements for Saka and Palmer. Now, most of us have Palmer, but we're not sure if he's going to feature on the weekend. We have to wait for Maresca's press conference. And Saka is definitely out for the next 3 to 4 weeks, which should take him out of Game Week 3 and maybe even 4. So I've pulled together a list of the best possible midfielders to replace those two if you guys have them. So I've compiled a list of 9 different players and sorted them by most expensive to least expensive. And surprisingly, the 3 most expensive players are all United players. United who have played well. They played well against Arsenal. They were the better attacking side, but then that went kind of downhill in their last game against Fulham. So people now maybe are more unsure, especially about Fernandes. But the thing is, had Fernandes scored that penalty, I think people will be all over him. As you guys can see here, he's on penalties, he's on free kicks, he's on corners, and I should have also added that to the graphic. He gets DEFCON points. I think he got 11 contributions the first game against Arsenal. So one more defensive contribution, he would have gotten those 2 points. And he did get those 2 DEFCON points against Fulham. I think he made 13 defensive contributions that game. And that's because he's playing deep. Now, our expectation was that he would start the game deep and maybe around the 60th or 70th minute, especially if they need a goal, he would move up. And that hasn't really been happening, which is quite a surprise. And yeah, to make matters worse, he missed his penalty, which is his main route to goal. You can see his XG per 90, so that's the non-penalty XG is 0.09, which is very low. Even his expected assists per 90 is very low, so he won't be the most exciting pick as long as he plays in that number 6 role, sort of. Mbeumo and Cunha looked more exciting to watch, especially Cunha. So you can see Mbeumo has an XG per 90 of 0.21 and matches that for the expected assists per 90. And he's also on corners, which is a nice bonus, I guess. Cunha, on the other hand, has 0.39 XG per 90, which is quite high, especially since he's played a tough side in Arsenal. And, you know, a decent side in Fulham. They're not bad defensively at all. But he's nowhere to be seen when it comes to assists. But it's only been 2 games, so it's a very small sample size. And of course, he's not on any of the set pieces or penalties. I would go for Cunha personally if I had to make a choice and had to pick one of these 3. I think right now I'll go for Cunha, but United in general I'm not sure about. That's the thing. They were very, very underwhelming against Fulham, and I don't know, but Amorim has to change something in that system. And if he does, then who goes and, you know, gets substituted, or who loses their spot? I doubt any of these 3 lose their spot, but you never know. But if you are looking for a replacement, the fixtures are very, very good aside from Chelsea at home. They play Burnley and Sunderland, 2 promoted sides at home. Like, if they can't score against these sides, then they basically will never score another goal this season, in my opinion. So I think these 2 games are guaranteed to have goals. Also Brentford and City. Again, City, I mentioned, they're not the most, you know, defensive side. You can catch them on the counter, and that's what this United side is good at, actually. So I wouldn't put it past them to score in that game as well. So 4 good games for the attackers out of 5. Yeah, my pick is definitely Cunha, and maybe even Fernandes if we hear something about, you know, shifting the formation and, you know, changing where he plays. If he gets a more attacking role, then Fernandes is definitely the best pick. So moving on to this trio of Gibbs-White, Gordon, and Semenyo. Now, Gibbs-White has decent fixtures. He plays 2 of the 3 promoted sides in Burnley and Sunderland. But first, he plays West Ham and travels to Arsenal. So if you can hold him against Arsenal, maybe bench him for that game and then play him against Burnley and Sunderland, I think he'll come good. He has a very decent XG per 90, which is 0.27, and a decent expected assist per 90 in 0.16. And he also takes some of the free kicks. Now, one thing that worries me are his minutes, because he hasn't finished a game yet, and they have Europe this year, so they're playing in the Europa League. I'm not sure how that's going to affect him, but he is an exciting prospect in terms of FPL, that is. I wouldn't, be against having him in my team. And then we move on to Gordon. Gordon, I put in there because he has an amazing run of fixtures in Leeds, Wolves, and Bournemouth. Bournemouth, yeah, they're playing well offensively, but they're conceding a lot of chances from what I've seen defensively. And then Gordon plays Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. By then, maybe you can remove him. So he's not the most exciting, I guess, pick. But if Isak does leave, then he should be nailed on penalties and playing up top as a striker, which can't be ignored. So I would have him personally, even against Arsenal or Nottingham Forest, especially if both games are at home. But let me just mention that I haven't seen him play today. So I'm recording this before the Liverpool versus Newcastle game. So he might get injured or something might happen and he would look less exciting. Or he might look more exciting today, who knows. But yeah, just adding that caveat. In terms of Semenyo, who is the most exciting prospect this year, he scored 2 goals against Liverpool and provided an assist against Wolves. And to be fair, during the Wolves game, I think he should have at least scored a couple of goals. There's a very, very simple sort of a tap and finish that he should have had in the first half, but it rattled against the crossbar and went out. And in the second half, he had a nice cross that he should have just buried in the top right corner or something, but he completely missed the target. Yeah, so he should have scored another 2 goals against Wolves, but he didn't. But the most important thing is he's getting into those positions to get those chances, and that's what we look for when we look at players or attackers specifically. It's all about that eye test. Is he finding the space? Is he finding those chances? And Semenyo is definitely finding those chances. And to complement his form, he has very, very good fixtures, except the next game week, which is Spurs away. And as we've seen, Spurs have a super tight defense. Of course, he could still score, but in terms of it being labeled as an easy game or something, I would say it's one of the hardest games, as Spurs are proving to be, again, like a very, very tight defensive ship. But following Spurs, he has Brighton at home, who Everton just put 2 goals past. And then Newcastle at home. Again, they're wait and see. Let's see what happens tonight. Then Leeds away and Fulham at home. These are very decent fixtures for a player that costs 7.2, that plays 90 minutes, that has a insanely high XG, even though it's a small sample size. Yeah, I'm loving Semenyo. Cheap, reliable, nailed, good fixtures, good form. What's not to like? I think he's one of my favorite replacements for Saka or Palmer. Lastly, we have this trio: Johnson, Kudus, and Sarr. So let's start with Johnson and Kudus. Both are looking quality, except Johnson is kind of finding himself in that space where he can score the goals, whereas Kudus is playing more of a support role, and he does track back quite a lot. I think he had something like 9 defensive contributions, even though he's sort of a winger. And his expected assists per 90 is 0.49. So he's playing that support role, which of course is super beneficial for Spurs, but maybe not as exciting for us if we own him in FPL. But their fixtures are absolutely outstanding. Bournemouth at home. Again, Bournemouth is not a bad team. However, defensively, they're not the tightest. West Ham away, they just got whipped. Brighton away, they just got whipped. Wolves at home, they just got whipped. Leeds away, they just got whipped. So all these, 5 of these teams, they're all susceptible to getting destroyed. And granted, Spurs aren't the most attacking team. If anything, I would recommend their defense against these teams. But we're talking about midfielders, and if you want a Spurs midfielder, in my opinion, you should go for Johnson. The trick is they're looking to sign a winger. That's why they're still trying to get Semenyo, for example. And I'm not sure how that's going to affect Johnson and Kudus. And they also have Champions League this year. So it's a little bit tricky. I wish there was a standout option in midfield. There is Sarr, Papi Matar Sarr. He's 5 million, but he's more of a CDM. Even though when you watch him, he does, you know, play a little bit forward sometimes, but he hasn't been taking that many shots, and his XG per 90, when I checked it, was like something like 0.06 or something low. And when I watched the game, yes, he does find himself in good, you know, in good spots, but not that good that I'd consider him over Johnson or Kudus yet. And none of these players are on set pieces or penalties, so we don't need to consider that into our decision making. But yeah, if I had to choose either of those, I think Kudus will still be nailed for the long run. I think Frank loves him, and he loves the fact that he tracks back so much. Maybe he reminds him of Mbeumo. I'm still split between the two, but I think both options will do well, especially in these next 5 fixtures, which are absolutely crazy. These are crazy 5 fixtures. You should definitely have at least 2 Spurs players, in my opinion. At least a defender and 1 attacker, or maybe even 2 defenders and an attacker. Yeah, and the third player here, Sarr, who just scored this game week. So he has Villa away, Sunderland at home, West Ham away, Liverpool at home, Everton away. So not the best fixtures, but guys, he's 6.5, he plays up front. Crystal Palace are a decent side, they know how to attack. They know how to create chances, even without Eze, without Olise. I think they're finding their feet often without, you know, any of those super creative players that they had. And I think Sarr is good. Again, for 6.5, like if he gets you a goal every other week, that should be enough. That's literally like 19 goals, by the way. And, you know, if he also trickles some assists here and there. Plus, he plays Sunderland at home and West Ham away. And Aston Villa away aren't the best. You know, Aston Villa don't have the best defense in my eyes, so they can still crack them open. Everton, yeah, we know they're famous for their DEFCON points and Pickford saves, but that means they're being attacked quite a lot. So I wouldn't put it past Sarr to break through their defense and score or assist that game either. The toughest one is Liverpool, but we saw what happened against Bournemouth, so let's see what happens today against Newcastle as well. But maybe I should have put them in yellow, not red, because Semenyo broke through God knows how many times that game. And Sarr has that similar play style. If anything, he's quicker. Maybe not as good as Shooter. Doesn't matter. I think he finds the same spaces that Semenyo does. And if Liverpool played like they played against Bournemouth, then they'll be in trouble playing against Crystal Palace and Sarr. So I think all 5 fixtures he could get a return in. And again, for 6.5, you're going down from like 10.5 to 6.5. That's 4 million saved, plus you get a quality winger. What's not to like? So guys, this was the list of 9 players that I'd consider to replace Palmer if he's injured. If we know for a fact that he won't be starting this next game week, then feel free to take him out. Or maybe some people are talking about using their free hits. I don't think it's worth using it just for Palmer. Well, except if you have many Arsenal and Liverpool players, because they play each other next game week. Yeah, and in terms of Saka, if you have Saka, then it's definitely a good idea to transfer him out, because he will be out of game week 3 and 4 based on what we've heard today. So this list of 9 players, I don't think there are better midfielders. I looked through all the teams and tried to identify the best midfielders to pick, and these are the best 9. That's if you don't have Reinders, by the way. I noticed I didn't include Reinders because I have him in my team and everybody basically has him. He's 5.5. I think it's a nice, he's at a nice price point and he's playing kind of up front, so to speak. So yeah, if you don't have Reinders, then just get Reinders and save like 5 million, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I think that covers basically all the replacements, and I hope you guys found this useful. And if you did, please leave a like, please subscribe. It'll really help me out grow my little tiny channel. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.